G'day guys and welcome to VEMA Trader, it's Rhys here. In the video today I'm just going to be running you guys through the trades that I set up last week. We'll go and have a look, see how they played out, give them a review, and then what we'll do is we'll take a look at Bitcoin in its current state, see if there's anything that we like to look at for the week, and set up any trades that we might be wanting to take this week. So what we'll do is we'll head to VEMA Trader and we'll get started. Okay, so here we are, we're looking at the trade from last week. This was the short from Alpha. There was no conditions set on this trade, so it essentially just meant as soon as price crossed Alpha, then would enter us into this short. Now, as you can see, we ended up getting stopped out for a loss. That's all good. I'm quite happy with how I managed this trade. There was really no chance to move my stop loss down. There was really nothing. I didn't love the look of this close up into the zone, but I don't have a rule in place in my trade plan to tell me when it's closing into the zone, exit the trade. So as far as I'm concerned, that was a well-managed trade. Obviously, it didn't go in our favor, but there's no real takeaways from this trade for me personally. So I'm just going to put well-managed, can't win them all. And then I'm going to go and have a look at the other trade that we had set up. Alright, so here we are on that second trade. Now, if you've got a good eye, you'll notice that it doesn't look the same as the last one did. We are on Alpha trigger again, whereas in the last one you would have seen there was a Bravo above the Alpha. What happened was I, quite sillily, had my Alpha stop loss essentially where Bravo was set up. And so what happened was VEMA checked when Bravo got hit, saw that I was still in the Alpha position because my stop loss just quite hadn't been hit. Didn't enter me into Bravo, so it protects me, stops me from getting into positions that I don't want to be in and multiple positions interfering with each other. Then I get stopped out on Alpha. And so I realized that it happened pretty quickly. You can see where I entered. It was on the same candle that did that. And so I basically managed to recreate it essentially as is if I just had my stop loss probably a little bit lower and entered into that Bravo position. So what happened was we got into Bravo, which was fantastic. And then it's Alpha in this one because I did recreate it, but it was Bravo on the last. We came up into the zone. We pierced the zone quite nicely, which always does worry me. And then we had a bit of a sell-off. So with this sell-off, I moved my stop down pretty quickly because I knew if price moves through that zone more, I definitely don't want to be in this trade. It's something that I love to do is move my stop loss into less of a loss. I mean, I really love to move it into profit. That's even better. But when I can, to move it into less of a loss is something that I really like to do. I think I shaved off about somewhere between 33% and 25% of my risk, which you'll find long term, if you can do that consistently on trades, it really does make a difference to your profitability because you're losing less every time that you do lose, or often when you do lose. So that was great. I was pretty happy with that. And then shortly after, Bitcoin really tanked. Now, because of the strength of this move up, right, how strongly Bitcoin had been bought up, like that is a huge candle, this one here, and the fact that we had pierced that zone quite strongly, I sort of was looking at this trade going, okay, I do still think we're going to reject, but I just don't know how far we're going to go down. Things look kind of bullish now. So what I did was I moved my take profit up. Now I was quite happy with that. There was a pretty strong 4-hour EQ. I think it lined up with like the 61.8 fib. To me, there was a good chance. Well, not a good chance, but there was a good chance that price might bounce there, and I would rather just get out, take my profits, and be happy than hold on, try and catch a really big move and miss out and end up with a loss. Excuse me. So drag my take profit up. You can see it went from, I think it was about a 4.5 as 5.0 to about a 2.7. So roughly halved, but I'm quite happy with that. Now, price did eventually go on to hit my initial take profit, so I could have sat in this trade for longer and made more, but just based on a few things that I'd seen, I was quite happy to move that take profit and lock in some gains. That said, that is something that I would like to make note of. So if you find that you're consistently moving your take profits and you were right initially, but you're taking less profit than you could be, or you're moving your take profits the wrong way, moving them further, or not the wrong way, but moving your take profits further from where they initially were and consistently missing them, the things you want to make note of so that you can improve and refine your training, your trading, and become more profitable. So for me, I look at that and I go, move TP, price hit initial level, still a good trade. And I don't mean good because it won, I mean good in the sense that I think it was well managed, but room for improvement. Because there is something I could have done better there, and that is to not move my take profit. So I'll save that as a comment, and then I'm quite happy with this trade, so I can mark that as reviewed. That can go off to my trade history, and then we'll come take a look at this week, and we'll see what we can see. Righto, so here we are, we're on the daily. We are looking at Bitcoin in its current state. If I'm being honest, my first impression is things look bad for Bitcoin. Why do I think that? Well, we are forming this big bearish flag, right? It's a little bit of an ascending wedge, which is typically a pattern that breaks the downside. You could just call it a bear flag. It's essentially what it is, right? It's a bear flag. We had a massive sell-off, huge move down here, bit of a retracement, but honestly, the strength of this retracement has been really, really weak, and you can tell that because we haven't even made it back to the 38 fib. This whole move took about 70 days. There you go, about 70 days to get down. We've been in it for 56 days, or probably 55. I might have gone 1-2 candle too far. We've been in this flag for about 55 days, so roughly 3/4 the amount of time that we were coming down. We haven't even made it back to the 38 fib. Now, anyone who is familiar with Donnie's springboard analogy for fibs will know that that is not a great sign for Bitcoin. So for that reason, I lean towards the downside on Bitcoin over the mid to long term time frame. There just doesn't seem to be really any buying strength coming in at the moment. So that's sort of my daily bias. Still bearish, probably more bearish than it was last week, to be honest. Still quite bearish. So that's what I'm saying on the dailies. We'll go see what I can find on the 4 hours. Okay, so finally we get down to the 4 hour. Now, first things first, guys, I think Bitcoin on the 4 hour at the moment is disgusting. I think it's ugly. I don't want to trade it. I don't like the look of it. So that's basically the long and short of this video. You can probably stop now because that's basically where I'm going to end up going. But I'll run you guys through what and why I feel that way. The market structure to me at the moment is just gross. It's just a whole lot of chop, right? We had this push out, but we're straight back in. And it's just a whole lot of not much. There's really not much going on, not much to see here. I was actually looking at Bitcoin this morning, kind of expecting a big move to come soon, because you'll see when price contracts like that and doesn't go anywhere for a little while, it's typically followed by some high volatility when it does start to move. That may have been this last candle. That may be something that's still coming. That just sounds like hindsight trading, so forgive me for that. While I'm hindsight trading, this EQ level was one of the levels. I actually started recording this video earlier today, and this EQ level was one that I really liked. That's held really, really nicely. I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't have taken a trade from there because it's just not really the way I trade, but it's always good to see your TA respected like that. So what I'm really seeing is these demand zones down the bottom weakening. So this demand zone here, you can see we ate most of it. We've gone 3/4 the way through it with those two candles. That's not a good sign for that zone. And that, in my opinion, is kind of the strongest zone on the board at the moment because it's the one that we created that higher high out of. The fact that that's been eaten almost completely kind of is not a great sign for Bitcoin, in my opinion. Now, there's another demand zone we created here when we went into that zone. It's also been eaten. Not as badly, probably 1/4 of it has been pierced. But it's a weaker zone because it didn't lead to a higher high. That was a lower high that we created here. So the demand zones that I'm looking at the moment, I don't have a whole lot of faith in them. I feel like if price gets back down there, potentially a good chance that we're going to go through them. So something like that, I don't think is completely unreasonable. Obviously we could head up, but that's kind of what I think is most likely to happen over the next week or two. That's kind of supported by this last candle, right? We had a huge buy up and then price just got slammed back down in the same candle. It's given us a massive bear hammer. Kind of shows that there is a lot of people keen to sell. I mean, there's obviously a lot of people keen to buy because price got bought up there, but the sellers pretty quickly overwhelmed them, pushed price back down, and we ended up closing below this sort of lower EQ level, which has historically been a pretty significant level, right? It was what held as support through there. Support here, resistance there. So we're back under that level, with the mother of all bear hammers. I think it's called a kangaroo tail. 10 different names for the same pattern. I like to think of them as kangaroo tails when they're just the huge ones, just because it's from a book that I read called Naked Forex, I think. Pretty much it, really. Like I just think it's kind of bearish. In terms of making a case for the upside, if I had to, we do have that daily trend line, but to me that daily trend line is part of a bear flag, so it's still kind of a bearish, it's been acting as support, but kind of a bearish trend line to be using. And that's kind of it, right? We're getting lower highs. We are getting very slightly higher lows, but they feel quite weak. Just a whole lot of consolidating above support, which typically, I shouldn't say typically, but often does lead to breakdowns, right? Consolidating above support often leads to that support being broken. So for me this week, there's nothing to trade. I just don't like the look of Bitcoin at the moment. And I think that's a really important thing to know, is when not to trade a coin. I know that at the moment, I just don't want to be touching it. It's not moving in a way that makes sense to me. It's not moving in a way that really fits my strategy. And so rather than trying to force trades and probably losing money, I'll just sit on my hands. I'll either, go and pull out some scalping strategies, go and trade Forex, or more likely just have the week off, and come back to trading next week, see what's happening. Might still be ugly. Come back to trading the week after if I have to. So that's it from me, guys. No trades this week. Just rest on my laurels, right? Made 1.5, 1.6% on the account last week. Call it a day and let this week, we'll just celebrate, sit on the beach and drink some cocktails is the plan. Hopefully you guys are having a great week. Let me know if you have setups that you like. I would love to see if you're trading this chop. Let me know, right? I love to learn what people do when I'm not trading and how people trade differently to me. So definitely let me know if you have ideas that disagree. If you are super bullish on Bitcoin, I would love to hear why. But that's it from me. Yeah, hopefully you guys are all having a great week. Hopefully you're all enjoying VEMA. Have a great week and happy trading. I'll talk to you guys soon.